Hey everybody, today we're going to dive into the world of property maintenance as I know it. This is a Rekeying kit for Kwikset. They also make them for different other locks like Slag and all them. Sorry, the allergies are getting to me today. I want to show you how to rekey a lock and give you a tour around the keying kit. This is an older kit. It's missing some parts. I'm not sure where they went. These are the different pins. As you can see, there's somebody wrote here master pins, and they're just little old tiny pins. And then you have other various parts like the clips that go on the back of the lock, cylinders, and some ball bearings for the other locks they make. And then I have some spare keys here, some graphite. And then these are top pins here and here, and then you have the other pins. It's like 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 different style key pins here with the colors. They're just colored to help people identify what pin it is, and in this case some of these have gotten messed up because somebody didn't lock the box right, not me. But anyway, these are the bottom pins. These are the ones that fit in the lock to lock it whenever you turn it. The master pins are for when you want to use a master key, which in that case you would have a second set of pins to identify the second key, which would allow it to turn the lock as well. It's a matter of doing a little bit of math, and I'll show you that in a minute. But I want to show you some of the tools here. This is what you call a cam follower. That's one of the tools that's missing. It's a plastic tube that slides into the cylinder of the lock, or it slides where the cylinder is to keep the pins from falling out. And this is a cylinder removal tool. And as you see, it's got this little groove on the end here and this little pin here. What that's used for is you would take the pin part right here and you would pop it inside there, in that little gap right there, and it would allow you to remove this shaft right here from the lock. And this is a doorknob with a lock on it. Once you did that, you would take the forked end and stick it down in that hole right there, and inside that hole are 2 pins that hold the lock cylinder in, and it would go in and it push 2 times. That would do like that, push them in and allow it to release the cylinder inside the lock. We're not going to be doing that today because that tool is also missing, and I have no idea where that one went. Now that little tool right there is the key measuring tool, and this is it right here. And this is for Kwikset. The what you call it? Slag locks have different key pin sizes and things like that. Some of the pins will cross over because they're the same size, but they're not the same number. And then of course there are other tools like the rekeying tool and the depth tool and all that, which I don't use too often. Sometimes I pick the lock. I just do this apartment maintenance style from back in the day. Let me put you on the pedestal and we'll get started with one. I have a deadbolt over here that I found in my shop. It's kind of rusty up. I'm going to show you how to rekey it. I'll be right back. Alright, I have you on the opposite side of the table from me, so some of the stuff might look upside down to you. But it's fairly straightforward and simple. Alright. This is the Kwikset lock, and of course you can see the key works fine. So we're going to pull that key out, and this has been sitting in the shop. It's kind of corroded. On the back of this deadbolt, you can see this little clip there. We need to get that clip off, and a lot of times you can just press it off with your fingers. It's pretty simple, like that, and that holds that pigtail on. That thing there, you can see how rusty that one is. That's one in the garbage. And so is this clip. You just want to pull that clip completely off, and you have, that's the cam on the inside. This is the cylinder, this is the cam. And the way you do it with a cam follower is you put the key in it and you would turn it. And I got this old screwdriver here, it's too small, but I'll slide it in there to show you. See? And you push it out, and see how all those pins line up to the key? Okay, that's how you key the lock to allow you to turn it. If it wasn't the right key, that'd be all wobbly. Now see, I got the cam in there. There's springs underneath this clip right here. These, well, I don't have very many springs left. Like I said, this is an old clip, old box. But it's so small I can't grab them with my fat fingers. That's what the springs look like right there. Little old tiny springs. And there's 5 of them inside this cap. And then underneath that cap, underneath the springs, are these little tiny pins. These are the top pins. Now, if you watch what happens when I pull this out, you see the pins rise up because of the different size teeth on the key. If we got a different key, like this one, and we put it in a lock. You're going to do this slow because they'll shoot out. You see the pins don't line up. You have 1 that's down and 3 that are up. The one on the end's about the right size. So, let's just use this key as an example to rekey. These pins here, I'm just going to take them out, toss them in the trash can. You take the original key, this key right here, this is an original key by the way because this says Kwikset on it, you see that? And what we want to do is we're going to take this key depth reader, this key gauge, and we're going to start at the back of the key right there. And we'll slide it in here, and it'll take you to the size it is. And that's a 5. I don't know if you can see that, there's a glare on my monitor screen. But that first one is a 5, and then the next one is a 3. You don't know that. Sometimes they're hard to read. That one's a 3. That one's a 5. That one's a 3. And that one's a 2. So we got a 5. That was a 4. 5, 4, 5, 4, 2. 5, 4, 5, 4, 2. Okay, you said so. We're gonna put that into our cam with the key in it. We're gonna get a 5, which are these red ones here. Put it in there. And you want to do them in order, because if you don't do them in order, you might mess up. See how that fits flush in there? That's the way you want it. Then we're going to do a 4. Some people are tempted just to put all the 5s in and all the 4s and all that. See, it says flush. And we'll use one of these brass ones here. Show you that it's a 5 as well. And a 4. See how even they are? And then we'll do 2. That's why I don't like to use colored pins, because different companies, if you mix and match, you got 2 red ones in there. So they're easy to get confused, even though they might be a little different tone. But see how smooth they sit in there? Now I just rekeyed that cylinder. Now see, all I got to do is put this back in front of the cam follower and push the spring and top pins on there. But because I am having problems here, we're gonna do the top just to show you. But see, something fell out. So one of the pins fell out of the top or something. But see, it works. It'll lock and unlock. So we're going to take this apart. And you can do this one of 2 ways. You can slide the cylinder out and let all the guts fall out, or you can pop this cap off. And you're going to have to do that either way. So let's pop the cap off. And you can see there's a groove on the side there. That's where that cap slides on. I usually just snap it on and slide it on. And you just want to pry it up like that. Sometimes you have to work at it a little bit. They kind of stubborn. Plus you got pins. You got the springs pushing up from the bottom. So, all right. See springs? You only see 4 there because something fell out earlier. We're going to take the springs out and we're going to reuse those. If you were doing a serious lock rekey for a customer, you would replace those springs. That would be the right thing to do, because if you didn't, there's a good possibility those springs could fail and their locks would fail and you'd be back out, and a good locksmith would feel responsible and take care of the problem. Then we're going to dump the top pins out. See, one of the top pins fell out as well. Those are the top pins. We'll put this to the side. I got the top pin. Alright, then all you got to do is pull the cam out. And then you'll see in those holes there, I don't know if you can see in them holes, there's nothing in there. And there's our cam that we just rekeyed. Lay that to the side. Now, normally you would take the cam follower and you would slide it in here. But since what I was using wasn't the right size, what we're going to do is we're going to take the cam, and you'll see the side of it smooth. We're going to slide it in the lock. And then we're going to take a new clip. See a little new clip? And on the back of the cam, there's a groove. I don't know if you can see that. There's a groove right there. I dropped the clip. I'll get another one. I got plenty of clips. Anyway, if you can see on the clip, there's a little tooth on there. And you slide that clip in there, and it slides into that tooth slides into that groove. Now, normally I have more parts than this, but somebody's helped themselves. Here's a better pin than the one that was in the back, or whatever they call this thing. I call it the shaft. And when you push that tooth down, it catches that lip. I'll show you. You see there's a lip on the back of that. I don't know if you can see that right there. It catches that lip. And sometimes some things break, so Kwikset's not the most reliable. So when you turn the key, that shaft turns. Okay? Alright. Now we're going to put the top pins in. Since we're going to do this one right, half-ass, we're going to drop some red top pins in. And these are all going to be the same. Okay. And unless you got the kit, it doesn't matter what size, but these are 0.16. I assume they're inches. But you're going to put one in each hole. There's 5 holes, so it's 5 pins. They make a lock with 6 pins on it. And I don't know about today, but back in the day, a Schleg was a lot harder to pick. But these suckers, all you had to do was stick a hairpin in them and jiggle the lock, and they'd pop right open. Alright, this last one's kind of hard because it's up in this little hole here. I've lost many a top pin fighting these things and springs. But you see them red, every one of them got a little red pin in it. Alright, like I said, we're going to reuse these springs because I don't have very many. And what I'll do is I'll start in the front, because if you don't start in the front, when you try to put the next one in, you might accidentally knock that one out. I'm going to put one spring in each hole. And since I've lost one, showing you how to do a cam follow there, we're going to have to get another one out the box here. Stick it in the hole like a little caterpillar, like that. And I'll tell you what, the replacement springs are never as good as the originals anyway. See? Alright. And then like I was saying about being a good locksmith, instead of putting the same cap back on there, you're going to put a new one on there. Like that. Yeah. And what I do is I stick it on there like that. This one's a long one. Let's get a shorter one. That one's a little bit shorter. And stick it on there like that. And press it down. Snap it into place. Okay. Now the lock's done. You know all you gotta do. See? It turns past the point of no return. Comes out. Slides in. And in this case, I would throw a little bit of graphite in it, but that tube's got a hole in it, so I don't want to mess with this. Graphite is messy. But in the case of this lock here, if you've got a small enough blade, you can stick it in the side of there and pry up on that and get that cylinder out. But you're going to damage the surface by doing that, so probably best not to do it. But yeah, I don't think I can do this with a regular screwdriver. Let's see. You want to push that in. Yeah, no, how them. It fits in here, and then you pry back on it and this thing here comes out. And once this comes out, then you can stick that fork thing in there and it'll push just like two prongs on the back of the lock cylinder. And it almost looks exactly like this one on the back. Instead of having two screw holes for the screws to go in for the deadbolt, it has two grooves in there. Trying to think. It might be actually on the outside of the screw holes from what I remember. Anyway, you slide these clips in there and the clips come over and curve up like that. So when you stick them in there, they squeeze together. And then once it gets up in there far enough to open up, and they grab the inside of the knob. Just right in there in that, that neck area, right in there. But if I had the tool, I'd show you how to do that. But rekeying it, this cylinder is the exact same thing. But yeah, most property managers have moved away from doing master keys simply because if it's lost, you have access to every property there is that they own. And so they just make sure that when they rent an apartment or rent a house that they have two keys for the resident, and they have at least one key for the property manager to use for maintenance and inspections if they do that. We used to have a bunch of Schlage locks that we didn't have a way to get into. And that's how I learned to pick locks. I got decent at picking the Schlages, but I'll tell you what, they were a pain. They were a pain. Schlages are tight, they don't rattle, and unless they're wore out, you don't get into them easy. But like the resident would move out, or we didn't have a key for whatever reason, and we couldn't get into the apartment. If you couldn't pick the lock, you had to drill the lock. And I'll show you how we drill the lock. You see where these two screw holes are right here? Well, this is just a thin plate, right here. It will actually pop off. And you know about right where those 2 screw holes are. You can take a 1/8 drill bit and drill through the plate, and most of the time you'll hit the screw and the screw will back out. Same on this side. Sometimes they don't and you have to drill the hole out, which is a pain in the butt. But most of the time that I've done this, I've gotten in. I had one instance where somebody put one of those cheapo locks on. I forget what they call them. You know, you go to the store and they got the $5 lock set. And they're like silver or whatever and really cheap looking. I've had a lot of problems drilling those out because the metal is soft and it just goes right through the side of the post, or you have 2 different metals and it instead of it being a brass screw, it could be an aluminum screw or something like that, and it gets corroded and it won't back out and you have to drill the whole lock out. A lot of people think you drill the cylinder out. That's for breaking into safes and stuff, because you want to save the safe. You don't care about the cylinder, so you drill the cylinder out. Cylinder is easier to replace than the old safe. You either pick this lock or you drill them out. And I was fortunate enough, a pick. I got one around here somewhere, but a pick is just a hardened piece of steel, and it's flat, and it has a tiny little hook on the end. You know, so it catches inside the lock. And then what you do is you have another flat little bar that's kind of like a piece of silver solder, if you've ever seen that, and it's bent on the end, and you stick it in the like where the key slides in, that top part right there where the pins are. You stick it in there because there ain't nothing in there. Then you'll stick your pick in the bottom down here, and what you do is you put a little tension on the cylinder so it's turning to the side, and then you rake those pins, and it pushes them pins up and down, and it lines up the top pins and the bottom pins, and then it slides out. You know, it slides around and you unlock. Anyway, my battery's running low, so we're gonna call this one a video. I know it was short, I know I babbled a little bit, but I hope you guys enjoyed it. You learned something. If you did, leave me a comment down below. Hit that thumbs up button, and y'all have an awesome day.